Hi guys, welcome back.
Hi, everyone.
Yellow. Oh, wait, I went back to normal. I just realized.
Because you say different things.
I like it, keeping people on their toes.
So we were thinking about different topics today, and we were thinking of thoughts and where they can sometimes lead us. They can lead us down so many different paths. And as I'm speaking, I'm actually looking at a sign that says faith over fear. And that's a thought. Immediately I'm like, that's a thought. And that's the kind of thought I want to have. I want to be in the position where my faith is driving my actions. My faith is driving my thoughts. My faith is moving me in a direction where I'm not afraid. And I think that just that one little thought, one little sentence, if that is what you're hearing, then that's a good start.
I feel like a lot of things influence our thoughts. And I feel like that can be, from what you like, I guess, food-wise, color-wise, stuff like that. But then also I feel like the enemy can sometimes play with our thoughts. And I feel like that really affects things like trust, the ability to just get out and move, the ability to interact with people. I feel like that it kind of is, a little bit of a spiritual war in our own heads every day.
Yeah, I think we talk about thoughts so often and the lies that we hear, from fear to discouragement to loneliness to the thought of no one understands me. No one's going to want to hear what I have to say anyway. And as you guys were talking, I mean, it's funny to talk about thoughts because your thoughts are, your thoughts are going all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you realize how often your thoughts are just going from the moment you wake up, and honestly, even when you're sleeping too.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find fascinating most of the time is that sometimes we're not aware of the thoughts, and it takes a lot of work to be aware of the thoughts. It takes a lot of practice. And I was listening to something recently about thoughts and about lies and what we tell ourselves or what we hear. And the person said that your thoughts are not meant to be kept inside. Your thoughts are meant to be shared, whether it be out loud, whether it be in prayer, whether it be with somebody that you trust. And it said that the revelation of the thoughts and the understanding of the thoughts, whether your thought is negative or positive, that it's discerned and it's understood when it's spoken out loud to somebody else. Because they said that it was the Sisters of Life episode, and they said that we're not actually meant to be alone in isolation with our own thoughts.
I think it's so interesting because as I'm listening and I'm thinking of thoughts also, it's as though sometimes we don't, like you said, you don't even know you have this thought, and the thought is so common and familiar to you that it actually became a belief. And I'm thinking of a different podcast. I'm thinking of Matt Lozano, and he was saying how his job was a teacher. That was his job in life, was a teacher. And being wherever, he was telling his a little bit of his story, and he was saying where he fell in his family, it was he wasn't really seen as much, or at least he didn't perceive himself as having been seen by his brothers or whatever the situation was in the family. I don't remember exactly that, but I remember he really struggled for a lot of years with not fitting in with his family, with who he was with. And he said it was when he was trying to be a teacher, he said it was so hard for him to convey the message because the lie that he kept believing, the thought he kept having was, nobody understands me. And I remember him going, try being a teacher and having that be your identity. Nobody understands me. He goes, and it was more than just a thought. It was a belief. And he had said it out loud. he was talking to his dad one day, and his dad was like, well, what are you thinking when this is happening? And he goes, well, it's what I've always thought. Nobody understands me. And he was like, okay, well then right then and there, we found the root. And let's look at that. Let's think about that. And let's just bring it to the light and get ourselves into a position where we know that that's not true. And he said it was like earth shattering because his whole existence was revolving around that thought, which became a belief.
It's almost like following a dark cloud until it finally rains on you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the belief of the dark cloud, that's another one. There's a dark cloud that's living over me. Don't say it. Don't make an agreement with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something we agree with.
Yeah. Yeah, listening to that story about Neil Lozano just made me think of my own personal week, if I'm honest. I don't want to say I was feeling off, but I guess there's no other way to like say it. Like I was okay, like I was like fine, but there was like I could feel something, you know. And I think without even realizing that I was believing this lie that I was weak in an area. And I remember like Janine and I, we were praying, you know, we were praying together, and I was sitting there and you had said something, and then we started praying, and all of the sudden it was just like, that's what you believe that they're saying about you, or that's what they believe. But actually the biggest part of it is that you made the agreement with it. You agree. You're believing the lie. And I didn't even know. Like I just didn't even know. And then, you know, it was like said out loud, and you know, we prayed about it, and I don't even want to say it was this like earth-shattering moment where something happened and something changed, but I just said it. And like within a couple of hours, with prayer, of course, and some FaceTime with Jesus, it just was, I was like, it's gone. And I think for like a couple of days, I was like in a fixer mode. Like, did I do something? Did I not do something? Did I just like, I almost like couldn't like figure it out. I was like sick. Like I was in this fixer mode of like, what's wrong, you know? And I want to fix it. But really it was just, I was just believing a lie.
Yeah. I'm like also thinking back to that type of a mentality. It's like you get stuck in it's a cycle. It's like, all right, I heard this. Now I believe it. Now I'm acting it out. And so what happens is you want to fix the problem then because there has to be a problem. But really at the end of the day, it's like there's a thought that is just repeating for you over and over again. And it becomes like an obsession. It's like, okay, I'm going to make sure my lesson planning is perfect. I'm going to make sure that I have all of my stuff prepared in the morning so that I'm ready for school at the exact time that I need to be. I'm going to make sure that, you know, this is covered here. And it's like creating all of these little scenarios to be safe and to be good and to be whatever. And I feel like sometimes it's like, who cares? Like, who cares? So you're not perfect. You know, I woke up late 2 times in the past 2 weeks for work. And I don't know the last time that like I woke up late. And I remember being like so horrified. Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? You can't get it together. And I was like, you can't get it together. Who talks like that? Like, who talks like that? And that's another thing that Matt Lozano was saying. He was like, listen to the way that you hear yourself talking to yourself. Because if you're not speaking with some level of reverence and some level of gentleness, then you're not listening to the voice of God. Like, it's called discernment. Like, you're not listening to the voice of God. You're listening to a different voice. If it's accusing you, if it's telling you you're not enough, if it's telling you you can't get it together, that's not God. And it's not even you. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at people and I'm like, yeah, that's not true. It's exactly what happened with us.
Yeah.
That's not true. That's not real.
Yeah.
Going based off, you know, I want to say like the enemy and the thoughts that he kind of nicks at and puts into our brains. It's almost like even when you try so hard to reject it, it's still an obsession. that's the biggest obsession, instead of like, embracing it and being all prideful about it and, stuff like that. When you try to reject that, now it's either one way, you're obsessed with becoming that thing, or obsessed of rejecting it. No matter what, there's no freedom.
It's like a trap.
Yeah, I think what you were talking about like leads to the obsession, right? I believe that I didn't do this thing right, or I believe I'm not good enough in one way. So if I'm not good enough, let's say in like my lesson for the day, maybe I come home and like clean my house crazy in a way that's so obsessive to try and make myself feel better, like to obsessing over, like you said, rejecting the lie, or just completely agreeing with it and then like saying like, oh, I just have a dark cloud over me. Then I'm obsessing over it. And what's going to happen? Negative things are just going to keep coming at you because you made the agreement with them.
I almost want to say it's like trying to tie a shoe. I'm going to bring it to an analogy like that.
God, I love your metaphors.
I'm waiting.
It's almost like trying to perfectly tie a shoe with perfect proportions of every little, shoelace. You're still going to sit there. You're still going to try constantly. You're not going to be able to get it because nothing's going to end up perfect. Let's be honest. We're human. And so when you do that, you're still staying in place. But then if you leave the shoe untied and you completely embrace it, you completely be like, I don't need to do that. I don't need to be perfect in that sense. You're going to trip over your shoelaces and you're going to fall and you're going to stay in the same place, buddy. Wow. I'm sorry to tell you.
So it's the in-between. It's the balance. It's the moderation, which is another podcast I was listening to. I listen to every podcast but mine. So I'm like, listening to so it was another podcast I was listening to. And one of the things he said is everything in moderation, people. Everything in moderation. Because the negative wants you either obsessing over making the shoelace perfect or quitting altogether. Meanwhile, there has to be like, it's like that balance of, oh, I tied my shoe. It's not perfect, but it's not going to trip me. And it's like that satisfaction with like, okay, I'm safe and I can't stop staring at that faith over fear. And I can't help but think that the root of so many of these things is fear. Like I'm scared that I'm not good enough. So I'm going to try. Or, well, I'm already not good enough, so who cares? It's like, and the root of it is fear. Like, and what does fear make you do? It either makes you control, or just release it all and just be like, Hakuna Matata, and no worries for the rest of my days. Who cares? It's like stepping out of balance.
I don't know why. I'm thinking of baking or like following a recipe, First of all, I need a recipe. I need a recipe. I'm not, I can't just come up with something on my own. But if I'm personally following a recipe and cooking, I want to say when I was younger and I was like learning to cook, I was like, like brushing the flour off the top, making sure it's like perfectly 1 cup or whatever. And I noticed myself doing it probably within the last like 5 to 10 years. I mean, don't get me wrong, I certainly don't cook or bake much, but I can. And I notice when I'm following a recipe, I'm like 1 cup, okay, scoop in. Or like if it says a half a cup and I'm like, well, I can't find my half cup, but I have a 1 cup and I know what a half looks like. So I'm going to, I'm going to go for it. And I think what I find is like sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, like, did I mess it up? But I feel like, and don't get me wrong, I've made something that maybe didn't turn out so great. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, it's still going to work out anyway. Like I maybe didn't measure the flour perfectly or the sugar perfectly. My cookies tasted great. My brownies were great, So I think it's like, it like the process doesn't have to be perfect for a good outcome. The process can be flexible. The process can be maybe even a little bit messy for the outcome to just be the same. Like if I made my brownies and you ate them, would you know if I perfectly, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, it's still going to be fine at the end of the day.
And in the sense, you're going to get better every time you make those cookies or brownies. Well, usually you will. Sometimes it's a little bit off one time and then it raises up again next time and then it falls back a little bit and then it raises up again and it gets a little better. That's just how life is. And I feel like I could totally relate this to like boxing.
Mhm.
So with boxing, typically you have to run because you want your cardio to be good. And so for me, I get a little bit, admittedly, a little bit prideful. And I'm like, all right, I'm a boxer. If I want to run, I have to do at least 1 mile and I have to do it at this good pace. And I got to do it this. And I was running and I was like, getting a little bit tired. And it was actually running with my cousin when I figured this out. And it was like, he actually stepped out of his comfort zone and was like, dude, I'm about to like yak and throw up right now. we gotta slow it down a little bit. And I was like, you know what? All right, we're gonna slow it down. And it's like the next day he did better though.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. You are gonna improve and you're gonna fall down a little bit and you're gonna improve. But the thing is, when you keep at it, you will get better. And I mean, who knows? Maybe by next year he's gonna be running marathons in 4 hours. No, I'm kidding. But
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also the knowledge to know when, like, and that's I feel like that's like discernment right there for him to be able to say, I'm not keeping up right now like this, and to have the courage to be okay with himself and be so proud of the progress that he did make. Like that's what it's about. And to have like I keep thinking of like you baking, you running, like every day you came home so in such a great mood. Like you had so much fun. You guys had so much fun with it. And like, I feel like you do enjoy your, like when you're baking for like Christmas and stuff, you always like, oh, I'm going to do my baking or whatever. And like, you get excited for it. And I think what you both are demonstrating is not being obsessed, but being comfortable with what you do. Like, okay, I'm not going to measure it perfectly. I'm not going to whatever, but my cookies are going to be good. And if they're not, who cares? I still had fun with it.
I was thinking that too. I was like, so what happens if I have to throw my whole batch of cookies out because they sucked? Like, who cares?
I think it's a lack of perfectionism too. Like it's like a matter of just being a little bit more free in that. And I another, oh my gosh, these podcasts are coming out of nowhere. I listened to Poco a Poco and they were talking about like Father PT was talking about how they in like the Rocky movies, and he was saying how like the Rocky movies where like it was like everything fell apart. He was specifically talking about Rocky IV. And he was like, that was such an underrated movie. He's like, it was like my favorite Rocky of all the Rockies. And I don't know, they did like a whole search on it in the middle of the podcast. I don't know what they were talking about. But at the end of the day, what he was saying was like, it was like he wasn't the perfect champion anymore. Like he wasn't even close to being the perfect champion. He was going up against somebody who was bigger, who was stronger, who was better. And he kind of had to like strip it all down and just like build himself up in the best way that he could without seemingly having the support of the people who were usually with him. But it was like that matter of like, again, like that faith over fear, that like determination and that like restoration almost of like, okay, he was here, but then he fell here. And I think we all have those types of battles in our life where it's like everything feels like it's all together. We feel like we have it all together. And then something happens and it's like you think you have nothing all together. And that's another thing that I've been learning a lot is like we don't deal in absolutes. We just don't deal in absolutes because the second you start talking like that, it's another movie. It's like Return of the Jedi. It's like only a Sith deals in absolutes. It's like that's not true. You're making agreements then with like total failure or total perfection, and you have no freedom. There's no balance. There's no room to like move, And I feel like that relates to boxing because you have to be balanced in order to have that fluidity, I guess, in your movement.
Touching upon the Rockies again, I guess. I feel like with Rocky IV, you see his determination, his I don't know if it was really an obsession, but his love for his friend who had passed away and his want to get in the ring. And he didn't hate Drago. He wasn't going in there with hate after the fight. It was almost like he was going in there maybe just for his own security and for his own love of the sport. And I feel like with Rocky III, it's the complete opposite. In the beginning, he was a complete wreck. He was, bathing in the glory. He was doing his own thing, riding motorcycles. I don't know if that was actually in the movie. I think it was. It might have been. But he was a complete wreck. He was like not exactly a good champion. He was just kind of slacking off, not really training hard. And you could see the difference between him then and when he has, the eye of the tiger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's true. It's like in Rocky 3, you see him just like, and that's when Apollo had to like kind of call him out and be like, what's the matter with you? Like, where's your heart? Where's your, and it was like, it was almost like he was being told like the lie of like, well, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm never going to win anyways. I don't stand a chance against that guy. So why bother trying? And I think that like symbolizes so much like what the voices that we hear, which is when it was like when he was in a different position, it was like, no, I can do this. It's not going to be easy. I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to try. He wasn't making an agreement with I'm going to be the best champion in the whole world, but he also wasn't making an agreement with like, I can't win. It was like faith.
And I almost want to say the best part, I want to say one of the, probably my favorite Rocky movie, despite Rocky 4 being like, like one of my favorites, I feel like relating to Rocky 1 is the best one because it's almost like he didn't go in there, obsessing over needing a win over Apollo. He didn't go in there being slacking though, thinking he was going to absolutely lose. He went in there, trained, did his thing, and, shocked the entire crowd by somehow lasting with Apollo Creed. And I feel like that was the best thing because it wasn't an obsession of I need to win or an obsession of I'm definitely going to lose. I might as well just give up.
It was hope.
I feel like obsession ties with attachment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about like, and this is no disrespect or judgment for like, like professional athletes or anything like that. It's just like, my thought is if I don't have that faith, right, and I'm so attached to this thing or I become so obsessed with this one thing, things like that don't last forever. Parts of our lives don't last forever. So what happens when they go away? What happens when they end? What happens when people retire? What happens when you don't box anymore? What happens when you lose your husband? I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, like, when those things go away, like, I think the lie that we hear is that we're not okay and we're not going to be okay. And no one says that those losses don't hurt or we don't miss them or whatever. But I think when we grow in our faith and we have faith, we learn how to be okay without certain things, without the obsession, without the attachment, and I think the obsession and I think the attachment do come with the lie and the fear that if they're not in our lives, that we're not going to be okay and we're not going to be able to survive,
It's almost like the difference of, holding something and having something like inside of you pretty much. That's what I want to say it is. It's like instead of holding the boxing glove, you become the boxer. That is an identity. That's who you are. And without that number one spot being filled with the boxer, when you lose that ability to box as you get older or if something happens, now what are you? You're nothing. That's the lie, I should say.
It's like what you said with like losing somebody, like you're not okay. And the reality is when you do lose somebody that you love or something that you love, you aren't okay. It's when the lie comes in, it says you'll never be okay. Again, it turns it into an absolute, you're never going to be okay. Or even worse, you were only worthy when this person was in your life. You were only good when this was happening. You're never going to be good again. So it's like, it's not that like, I feel like people need to just be real and be like, yeah, I'm not okay right now, which is exactly how you were when you lost your husband. It was like, I'm not okay right now. But you weren't going to stay there. It was like you didn't want to make that agreement with, I'm never going to be okay again. And I think that's what it is. It's what we make agreements with in our minds.
I feel like it's almost like, it's a little bit silly, but it's like slapping your hand onto a hot stove and then being like, well, if I move, what's going to happen? Am I going to get hurt? And it's almost like you're already getting burned. Just take your hand off of it.
Wow. One of the lies I used to struggle with was I can't. If I felt overwhelmed, if something happened, if something interrupted my day, if, a catastrophe, small, medium, or big, would happen in my day, my immediate thought would be like, I can't do that later. I can't do this later. And I would get into the cycle of I can't. It's all too much. I can't handle it, And when you tell yourself that, well, you're not going to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
Because another thing we have learned and heard recently is what we tell ourselves is what happens, what becomes, If we tell ourselves that we can't run the mile, well, how do you expect to run the mile? If you tell yourself you can run the mile, pretty sure you can probably make it or try. Or if you fail, like you're going to still be okay. But I can't is definitely something that I have struggled with and probably still struggle with at times.
Yeah. And it's probably connected in some way to like some type of an identity of fear. Like it's like the fear of not completing the task or not being good enough to do it. So then you just kind of, it's like with the shoelace. It's like, well, then I just can't anyway. So I'm not even going to try.
I feel like it's overconfidence, underconfidence, and then the balance is confidence.
Yeah, it's true. And so I think the main thought or the main lesson that I'm feeling like God is trying to reveal to us is like maybe just be kind of gentle with yourself in your walk, wherever it is that you are, and try not to make agreements with things and listen to your heart too. It's like for me, I'm like, I could remember for a long time, like even if a song came on that reminded me of when I was younger and I made poor decisions, sometimes the thought would come right in, well, you just always be that girl anyway. Just always going to be that. And it's like, wait a minute. No, I'm not. I'm actually not even that right now, And it's like, and that part of me that was that girl was hurt, For whatever reason, there was like a part of me that felt like I wasn't good enough or I wasn't worthy or whatever it is. And so the behaviors were as a result of that. But now, where I am now, I could look at that part and be like, yeah, you know what? Those choices were bad choices and those things were what they were. But I'm not going to sit in condemnation and accuse that part of myself. I'm not going to do it because that is still me, And nobody is perfect. Nobody.
I almost feel like it's the two sides of obsession. It's like walking down a paved walkway and then you step too far left and you step into mud. But then again, if you step too far right, you're going to fall into mud too. It's the in-between. It's the difference between, the I need to do this and the I can't do this, I give up.
Yeah. Bottom line is that balance, finding the balance, finding the moderation, and just taking a minute to really contemplate and think about your thoughts, recognize them. I feel like if you feel like you can't say that to somebody else, then it's probably not the voice of God saying it about you or saying it to yourself. So I think it's definitely, I hope everyone takes the time after like listening to this to just take the time to recognize those thoughts and kind of like sort them out.
Yeah.
And recognize the lies that maybe you're believing and to not do it alone. Again, it's like we live in a world where we can so easily isolate with our phones and things like that. And it's just like, get into that community and find that person that you trust and just like talk it out. I mean, what feels better than getting it all off your chest?
Yeah. And I'll even send a text message to Marissa. I'll be like, this is what I'm thinking right now. And I know it's like a little bit off, but and then I'll just say it out loud. And just saying it and being honest is really a huge step, I think, into like bringing it out into the light, or like if you have a really good friend that you trust or, having a conversation or like a lot of times when like James and I will go on a walk and we'll both just be randomly talking. And then all of a sudden you get this like revelation of like, oh, I think my mind was a little bit, off for a little while there, but, it's just having that ability to speak it out loud and look for the positive, and I'm not one of those who is into like, oh, like positive thinking is going to make everything perfect. No, like I want to say more than positive thinking. I want to say there's a God out there who is fighting for you, who is fighting with you, who will step into that battle and like bring his army of angels, his army of saints to just step in for you. And so you don't have to do it alone. You never had to do it alone. He's been there the whole entire time. And all you need to do is call out his name. He'll step in.
Amen.
All right, tiny miracles. Anybody?
I'll go first.
Okay.
If you're watching the YouTube, you might be wondering why there's a chicken on my shirt. But what you can see is that it's a chicken pot pie shirt because tomorrow is pie day.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never done this before. I've been teaching for a pretty long time, and I've never actually, I mean, we've celebrated in some ways, but I've never actually brought in pie. And let me tell you, I had so much fun shopping for pie this week for my students. And today we ate a lot of pie, all different flavors. They shocked me in the flavors that they actually liked. And I guess the part of the miracle, aside from the fun, was as the day was going by, I was like, we are going to run out. I looked at my co-teacher and I'm like, we do not have enough pie and we're going to have to bring it on Monday. Like we were coming up with all these scenarios and she's like, I don't know. Let's just do it this way. And when I tell you, like, we had the exact amount that we needed, I had the exact amount left over to give the students that I didn't see today on Monday, like the timing, I'm sorry, not the timing, the number of, and the amount that we had was just like perfect. So
It's like loaves and fish.
Yeah, exactly. The pot just kept going.
That's exactly what it is.
I was like,
Jesus was refilling your basket.
I can't look at pie for like a month.
My tiny miracle was I went to see my parents last weekend and just like stop in and say hi or whatever. And like we had such a fun visit. It was really nice. And then I was leaving to go home and my brother-in-law was outside with my niece's kids and they were like so excited. It was like warmer, a little warmer than it had been. And they were like, we're so excited. We're going, you know, and then my sister came outside and then my niece and her husband came. And it was like really cool just to get to like see all of them and laugh with them and just like have fun. So that's kind of like my tiny miracle, I guess, is like seeing my family because I don't get to see, you know, not that I can't see them. They're not far away, but it was nice.
I love that.
I think my tiny miracle, has to do with family too. It's, waking up every morning and going out for a run.
Yeah.
That I started doing with my cousins.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
I love that too.
All right. Well, thank you guys. See you next week.
Thank you guys so much. But please remember to like, share, comment, follow, leave us a review. I don't know, all the sayings that podcasters say.
I was listening to so many podcasts this week. I was like, we don't say any of that. We say some of it, but like if you guys could just remember like commenting on any of those, like Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, if you comment and do stuff like that, it's really beneficial apparently for us. So if you could do that, it would be great.
Yeah, we hope you're enjoying the prayers that we've been sharing as well. The prayer series for overwhelm and, the 3 Hail Marys that are our favorite prescription.
Anything's wrong, just say 3 Hail Marys. It's like our favorite thing to do.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye green flies.
Fun.
That's a good job.